Hello and welcome to part 18, Super User, of installing a Linux system, which is part of the Programming for the Web series. Sometimes you need to be able to change the permissions on the file or the ownership of a file or something like that. And if you don't have the rights to do it, then you need to be able to get those rights. Now, you can only do it if you are actually an administrator. So if we look at the users and groups very quickly, you can see that I'm part of the administrators group. Now, if I was part of the standard group, I wouldn't be able to do this. Okay. Right, so you have to be an administrator in order to actually get the super user rights. Okay. Now, while you're away, I've changed the ownership of stuff to root. Okay. And it's still got the same permissions, so I can actually read it, but there's nothing inside. If I try and read it, you'll see that there's nothing there. Okay, it's empty. It says so, 0 bytes. But what you might be able to see on the icon is a little lock, a little padlock. So that tells me it's locked. I can't do anything. So, for example, if I wanted to actually put some information into the file, okay, I could actually copy, for example, the cpuinfo and put it into the file. If I do that, it would be better. Okay, now if I press enter now, I'm going to get an error. Okay, permission denied, because I don't have the rights to write to this file. I can only read the file. So I need to be able to do something to change that, and that is called SUDO. Okay, it stands for Super User Do. Other people may say it stands for other things, but most people say that it stands for Super User Do. Now, by putting that in front, it's going to ask me for my password. Okay, and provided the password is correct, what went wrong there? Then let's just change the ownership of stuff to me, and we'll try that again. Okay. Right, now you can see that stuff is owned by me. So what I've done is I've used sudo chown. I've put myself in as the user, John as the group, and it was the file stuff. It requested a password, which you couldn't see me type, and then because it returned successfully, you can see that I now have ownership. So if I do that, now you can see that stuff now has 780 bytes in it, and we can actually view what's inside, and this is the information about the processor on my computer. Okay, nice useful command, if you don't know it, is clear, and that will just clear the screen. It doesn't actually wipe the screen, because you can see that the slider bar is at the bottom. It just moves everything up to the top. Okay. So Super User Do, SUDO, is the command you need to change things. You have to be very careful with it. Don't just go in and change ownership, because things won't work if you don't actually have the correct ownerships for the file. You'll suddenly find that you can't run programs because you've changed the ownership to you, or Fred or somebody else, and the system can't use it. Okay, it's much better to actually leave the ownerships and change the permissions of the file to allow you to actually read it or write it, especially here if necessary. But really, the only time you're going to be using the change of ownership or the change of permissions is if something has been installed on your system into not into your home folder. For example, you might install Apache or something like that, and you need to change some of the settings in the Apache config file or things like that. Then you're going to need to use super user to be able to edit that file. Okay, so super user will give you super user rights on the system. Okay, and it's very powerful. You can do a lot of damage with it, so be very careful what you do with it. Try not to use super user all the time. Because I've been in super user, I'm going to exit out of terminal, which will stop my super user rights. I shall restart terminal, and I'm back without my super user rights. Okay, it's quite important that you make sure you don't have the super user rights, because for example, if you're removing folders and things like that, you can actually accidentally remove things that you're not supposed to be doing. You can change the permissions on things that you're not supposed to, which would stop them working, and this type of thing. So although it's there, it's very powerful, but with power comes responsibility. So make sure you understand what it is you're doing before you do it with super user. Thank you for watching. My name's John, and I'll see you next time.